Ida dunked. He didn't flinch, but she heard the sharp hiss of his breath, a far more pleasant sound than his earlier groans of misery. "Thank you," he mumbled. "You're most welcome. How are you feeling? Any improvement?" A grunt was his only reply. "Our luncheon should arrive shortly. I requested some dry toast, if you think you could stomach that." The bed, retching into the chamber pot for what seemed the 1,000th time since the ship had left port that morning. "Or not." She retrieved the damp cloth, and when he rolled onto his back she mopped the sweat from his brow. "Are you certain you won't take a potion? I could feed you only a spoonful or two and keep the rest away." "No, if I taste the they're in the best state to handle them." "You've had no food all day, and yet you continue to be sick. I'm worried you will soon have no insides left at all." She swiped the cloth along his cheek and down his neck. She had long since deprived him of his necktie and undone the top button of his shirt. Not that she was certain it had made any difference. Sometimes, like now, his skin was warm and flushed, while at other times he seemed cold. Nick reached up to stroke a finger down her cheek. "You are good to me, Berries." "I only wish there was more I could do. Shall I read to you? Or would you like to try to sleep? I can even fetch you that little rabbit if it will be of comfort." "Pardon?" "The little toy rabbit from your trunk. I found it when I went looking for something to read. It must be very special to you if you carry it around when you travel." "Don't be embarrassed on my account. Sentimental items are a part of our basic human nature, I believe." He turned back over slowly, grimacing and putting a hand to his belly. "I was given that toy when my sister Anna was born. It reminds me of her." "Ah, you two are close?" "Very. But she was recently married, and I haven't seen her in months." "You must have been as good as Anna the person." "You gave her your sister's name? That's sweet." "Yes, except that Anna the rabbit is a boy rabbit, which caused some childhood disagreements, as did my tendency to adorn him with sparkly ribbons." "Well, I'm of the firm opinion that we all ought to be our true selves rather than what we are told to be. If he wishes to wear pretty—" Nick smiled for the first time that day. "You are a treasure, Miss Ida Quimby." A knock at the door saved her from stammering a bashful thanks. "That would be our lunch." "Well, my lunch. Perhaps you might have a bit of tea at least. What if I put a few drops of potion into it? Would that mask the serum enough for you to safely drink it?" He shook his head. "I would— Excuse me, I must go to the door." Ida pushed herself up off the bed and slipped the steak knife, which she now thought of as hers, from her travel satchel. Holding it behind her back, she cracked open the door. She would take no chances. She and Nick would stay together at all times, behind locked doors whenever possible, and she would remain alert for any possibility of an attack. She off his question and opened the door fully to allow the man with her lunch tray to enter, keeping hold of her knife in case he was an enemy in disguise. He placed the tray on the small table. "Here you are, Mrs. Masterson. Is there anything else I can do for you?" "No, that is quite sufficient, thank you." "Very good." He bowed and departed. The tension drained from Ida's muscles when the lock fell back into place. Onto the edge of the bed. "Ida?" Nick's question now carried a heavy dose of suspicion. "Why are you wielding a knife?" "Someone has to protect you in the event of an attack. You're in no state to do so yourself." "I understand your concern, but why do you even have a knife? Did you steal it from a kitchen somewhere?" She would have to confess, and then he would be both angry and worried for her, neither of which he needed right now. He levered himself up on one elbow. "I would have bought you a knife if you had asked, or better yet, taught you to use my defensive potions. I have many of them, and they can keep you safe with no need for weapons." "I didn't steal it. Well, found it. I'm sorry." He sat fully upright, the movement causing him to grimace and clutch his stomach. "Found it where?" Berries, what's going on? Ida exhaled slowly. I found it stabbed into my pillow when we boarded the ship to Alexandria. What? He lunged toward her. Someone was in your room? Someone was in your room with a weapon? Cautions, I locked and barricaded the door every night. You could have been killed. His normally low voice had risen nearly a full octave. For Christ's sake, Ida, what if someone had gotten in? What if something had happened to you? Nothing did happen. Please, lie back down. You're looking very unwell. She scanned the bed around him. Where did I leave that damp cloth? Nick didn't stop ranting. How could you not... Lie down, please, before you make yourself worse. Ida put her hands on his shoulders to push him back down, but he was too strong to move even an inch. He grasped both her wrists. Berries, look at me. What if I had lost you? What would I do without you? I can't even think. I can't even imagine. God, Berries, what would I do? Hush, Nick, please, you're sounding delirious, and you've gone... I'm fine. I'm here. His grip relaxed, and he slumped under the bed, groaning, though she couldn't tell whether from illness or merely ill temper. She found the cloth, re-wet it, and bathed his face and neck. His breathing began to slow, and color returned to his cheeks. There you are, she murmured. Everything will be well. Neither of us is harmed. His arms wrapped around her waist, and he pulled her down on top of her, laying his head against hers. Why would anyone wish to hurt you? I wish I knew. I swear, Berries, I swear I will protect you with every last breath in my body. We will protect one another. She closed her eyes and let herself bask a moment in the warmth and passion of his embrace. I'm sorry. Why didn't you tell me? I should have, but I knew you would react. And I was still rather furious with you at the time. You'd given me no real indication that you thought kidnapping me was wrong. I feared you would become so concerned for my safety that you would drag me back home. His fingers twined in her hair. I knew it was wrong from the start. I was only ever making excuses. I'm so sorry. He really was going to be apologizing for the rest of his life. It amused her. Would it be so bad, he asked, going home? There are other things you could have done. You could purchase your serum from the usual suppliers. It's too expensive in the quantities I need to get my business started. I was relying on Alfred's connections. But you are an heiress. Where is your money gone? If your family has disowned you, I will give your father a piece of my mind. I haven't touched it. I don't want to touch it. I have planned for this business using only what I already have. A small inheritance from an aunt a number of years ago, and what I've saved from my allowances. I've budgeted everything so that I don't need to ask for any money. Not from my dowry, not from anyone. I plan to find a house of my own someday, buy my own food and clothes. I will be entirely independent. No one's burden but my own. Nick planted a kiss among the tangled mess. Never be a burden. You're so strong, so full of purpose and full of life. There's no one I admire more. She murmured his name, her voice choked with emotion, unable to form other words. There are things I must tell you, he said, things I should have said long ago. I can't blame you for not telling me all. Not when I've done the same. I've given you so little of myself. Ida sat up as better cloth. Another time. You are ill, and I've caused you great distress just now. Rest, and we will talk later. His eyes closed, and he breathed a long sigh. Thank you, I am tired. She wriggled out of his arms until she lay beside him, one arm draped across his chest. I will hold you until you are asleep. No, don't. You'll be here too long. A few minutes later, when his breathing had sat down at the small table to take her lunch. She set one of Nick's healing potions beside her plate before picking up her sandwich. She didn't think her food was likely to be poisoned, but she would take no chances. She would protect herself and Nick from any and all harm, whatever it took. That was chapter 20. Good night.